This is Stephanie Phillips, and we have the special co-host, Vem Miller. He's filling in for Steve for another episode of the Veterans in Politics Talk Show. Tonight, we have Judge Matthew Walker here from the Municipal Court, Department 1. But before we get to Matt, I have a few announcements, and then Vem is going to have our rant tonight. So I want to thank all of our sponsors. We have Semper Fi Heating and Cooling. Get in touch with them. It is so hot out there. Their website is callsemperfi.com, callsemperfi.com. We also have Michelle Romero. She is running for re-election for the city of Henderson. Her website is votemichelleromero.com, votemichelleromero.com. We also have a Board of Regents candidate, Angelo Carvalho. His website is carvalhofornevada.com, and that's the number 4, carvalhofornevada.com. Get in touch with him and check out his platform. We also have a new sponsor, Cody K. Whipple, and he is running for Congressional District 4. His website is Cody K for Congress. Let me check that real quick. Yes, Cody K for Congress. Sorry, Cody, and that's the number 4, codykforcongress.com. Check out his platform. Also, don't forget to grab your copy of Steve's book, How to Navigate Nevada's Family Court System. If you are a family court litigant and you don't have an attorney or you can't afford one, grab your copy on Amazon. It is $14.99. It is a self-help book, and it will help you through that system. Also, grab your tickets for the Valentine's Ball that's coming up on February 7th, 2026. The tickets are available, and they are at a very, very low price. We have never done that before, but they're only good at this price for July and August. And there's only so many of those tickets to get around, to go around. So you're going to want to grab those. Also, jump on our merch store. It's vipimerch.com, vipimerch.com. We have a bunch of fun stuff there for you to check out. I think that's it. So I'm going to throw it over to them for the rant, and then we'll get to Judge Walker.
All right, so rant. I guess my rant would be this last few days, there's been a bit of a MAGA civil war. I don't know if people out there might be aware. I've worked a lot with the Trump folks and trying to get them reelected. And this last 2-3 days, I think there's been basically a civil war in the MAGA world because of these Epstein files and the story changing. First, there was something like 15,000 videotapes and files sitting on Pam Bondi's desk. That kind of slowed down for a sec. Then James O'Keefe did an expose with Pam Bondi hanging out with a friend of hers at a restaurant talking about these 15,000 files. And then lo and behold, 3 days later or 3 days ago, all of a sudden there are no files. So Epstein was basically trafficking to nobody, and Maxwell is in prison for trafficking to nobody. So I mean, to us, even the most devoted Trump fans, MAGA folks, this just stinks to high heaven. The party's split right now. I think if you ask people within the loyalists, they would tell you that the midterms are lost in 2026. That's my prediction, unless they really fix up this mess and tell us what's going on. And frankly, I think the 28 election just came at risk, especially with Elon Musk saying he's launching the 80% party. So I think we have a situation here where, as a former Democrat, current Republican, not knowing where the hell this is all going, frankly, it's a scary time because a lot of us that felt, betrayed by some of the censorship and other stuff with the Democrats now are looking at the Republicans going, what's really going on? That these promises aren't being, upheld. So that's my rant.
I think a lot of people think they're lying and they don't believe that. And you're right. She is sitting in prison, and there has to be the other side to that. So they can't just put one person in prison because there were many involved. So I get it. And just a disclosure, whatever we rant about is not our guest's opinion, especially
personal feelings,
especially the judicial guests.
Yeah, and nonpartisan. Judicial guests are nonpartisan, really looking out for all of our well-beings.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate the highlight.
And none of the sponsors, our guests do not endorse them or anything. We are just, that's part of our show. And we have our guests, and they come on and they can have their opinion. So welcome, Judge Walker.
Thank you. Kicking it off here like that, little explosive.
Well, thanks. That was mild, actually, compared to some. But thanks for coming. We're so glad that you came. Give us a bio. Tell us about yourself.
Well, I have been here in Vegas off and on since the late 80s. I spent summers here, so I feel like a a native. I know I've been told that, I don't meet that born and raised criteria, but I feel like I've at least grown up along with the city. I moved here permanently in '08. I started at the city attorney's office back then, and I was a career prosecutor until earlier this year when I was appointed to the bench in Municipal Court Department 1. And during the time at the city attorney's office, I had a lot of great opportunities to see how the system worked and understand what we can do in municipal court and kind of the things that make us unique. I had the opportunity, with a lot of support from my office and from the court at the time, to develop a program called PST, Psychiatric Stabilization and Treatment. That program was aimed at addressing people that were in mental health crisis, that we had in custody, that we could refer to treatment, and then once they were treated, once they were stable, then proceed with the cases. We found that had a big effect on recidivism, and it was a way to make sure that people were being held accountable, make sure that we had them coming back and keeping up treatment compliance, but also give people a chance to change if they were at that stage in their lives.
And you handle veterans treatment court too, don't you?
I do. So that was something that the PST program was something I started when I was at the city attorney's office. Now that I'm on the bench, I was assigned to the veterans treatment program, which there's a lot of parallels. There's, as I'm sure you guys know, there's a lot of mental health issues that arise in the veterans population. There's a lot of substance use issues that they can arise, a lot of addiction issues just separate from substance. And so I was able to bring my experience with the PST program over to the bench with the Veterans Treatment Court. But it's also been, it's been a great experience just learning about the differences, learning about the culture. I don't have that service background myself. And so every time we have Veterans Treatment Court once a week, and every time we have somebody come in, I learn a little bit more about, what's meaningful to the participants and the things that work and help them get better and the things that don't. So it's the best part of my week. With the treatment program, the Veterans Treatment Court, I get a chance to have more one-on-one interaction with the participants and really get to know them better, and get to see them work through the struggles and help them as much as we can.
I'm curious. I got to ask this. I mean, in terms of treating mental health for veterans, what do you think we're doing right, and what would you do differently if it was, if you could make the call on it in terms of how to approach their treatment?
Well, the problem with mental health is it is so particularized. Everyone's illness, everyone's diagnosis is what works for one person won't work for another. And so that's the biggest difficulty, is making sure that the resources are focused on an individual basis. I know they've made some expansions to the VA hospital. I was able to tour it here about a month ago or so, and they now have a new inpatient psychiatric unit over there. I feel like that's a resource that's going to be able to be utilized pretty heavily. In fact, I know at least of a couple of defendants that have gone over there, within the time frame since I visited. I think awareness too, and removing of the stigma, is the thing people can do sort of on the street. A lot of times people with mental illness are just, they're afraid that, someone's going to think they're crazy. They're afraid that they're going to have to say, you know what, I'm just crazy, rather than saying I've got a problem and I need help. And so I think that's, in terms of things that we can do right, just your ordinary person, your person on the street can, when someone comes to them, the best thing to do is withhold judgment and just listen to the issues that they're having, because if they're coming to you, that means they're ready for help. And I think that's really step one, because just like any problem that someone has, whether it's an addiction issue or substance use issue, you have to have a support system. And so that's something we can all do on a personal basis, is be that support system.
Tell everybody what kind of cases that you handle at municipal court.
So in Las Vegas Municipal Court, we're a court of limited jurisdiction. We only handle misdemeanors. So all the misdemeanors that occur within the jurisdictional limits of the city, so within the city limits, that's what we cover. So it could be as simple as walking in the roadway or having a speeding ticket, all the way up to vehicular manslaughter. That's the most serious type of case that we handle. A large portion of our cases are domestic violence cases, DUIs. We also have a lot of quality of life, homeless-related issues that come through our court. We've got 7 courtrooms. Each courtroom handles everywhere from 50 to 150 cases per day in each courtroom. And so it's pretty high volume, and it can be a lot to make sure that everybody's getting justice and everything. And when I say everyone, I mean both defendants and victims are being served by the process.
Well, you being on the prosecutor side, so how do you balance being equal, because
Right.
you're used to one side of that, right? So that must be in the back of your mind when you're
Oh,
up
absolutely.
there.
It's one of the things that I wanted to make sure was clear when I was appointed, when I took the bench, is that I am not going to be a prosecution only judge. The whole point of the judiciary is to be impartial and make decisions based on the law, the evidence that we have in front of us, and ultimately what is going to be just. And that is not always going to be the position that the prosecution takes. So one of the things so I'm always cognizant of, when I make this decision, I'm making it based on what's been presented to me. That's what I as a judge have to do. And I think it bodes well in I think for me in the appointment process, that I had a lot of support from the defense bar throughout that process. I think that was a factor. Made clear that just in my experience as a prosecutor, that the defense attorneys that I did work with felt that I could be reasonable, that I could be equitable, and most importantly, impartial.
Yeah. So I'm curious, like when you're dealing with your caseload, I mean, you've been judiciating for 3 years now, or
No, I was just appointed in February.
February? Oh wow,
Yes.
wow,
Yep.
okay, and you're running for office.
2026.
Wow.
So under the city charter, I have to run for retention in 26,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll serve out the term. Of Judge Leong, who retired and who I replaced in Municipal Court 1. Her term is up in 28, so then I would be running in 28 again for the full term.
Wow. And how is it running right now? I mean, how are you finding the experience?
It's kind of like taking over the treatment court. It's been a huge learning experience. Right now, I'm just excited about it because it's all very new to me. As a prosecutor, it was not. Certainly, we have political cases that come through and cases that have media attention, but especially in misdemeanor court and limited jurisdiction court, we didn't have a lot of that. And so politics didn't play a big role in my day-to-day. And now, learning this process, learning the campaign trail, learning the things that I need to do, the places I need to go, the people I need to talk to, is all it's there's a little bit of a fire hose of experience there, but it's been fantastic. And I've got to say, everyone I've met with, every time I've gone to an event or spoke or presented, everyone's just been fantastic. And it has been, I don't know, it's exciting. It's a lot. It is a lot of work, and there's a lot of organization that goes into it. And thankfully, I've got a good campaign team that's kind of keeping things on track for me. But it's also a lot of self-education too. Just a lot of listening to podcasts, reading books, talking to people that have been through the election cycle, what worked for them, what didn't. So I guess in short, a lot. That's how I feel about it.
These things are polarizing politically. So going from a appointed position to now you're out there talking to people, and obviously they're bringing their politics into the conversation. I mean, how do you, as a judge, deal with that?
Well, the first thing I have to highlight, and like you pointed out, Stephanie, as a judge, I have to be nonpartisan. That's the way the process works. That's the way that we assure impartiality. The big thing is to listen to what people have to say, give them a chance to tell me what their issues are, and respond to them in a way that is relevant to what I do. Again, as part of the judiciary, my job isn't to make the law, it's to apply it, it's to interpret it. And so if they're talking, a lot of the partisan issues have to deal with legislation, they have to deal with the enforcement of policies, and those things are really outside the scope of what we do. It doesn't mean that I shouldn't give someone a chance to tell me what they think and kind of get my feedback. But the biggest thing with those, when I have those conversations where people want to talk about partisan issues, is just to remind them, in a lot of ways, when it comes to those legislative issues, I'm just like anyone else. That's something that's out of my hands.
But you go to both events. You go to Republican events, Democrat events, like
Oh,
lunches
absolutely.
and different things. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think it's important. Again, as a nonpartisan candidate, I think it's important to make sure I hear what everybody has to say. Again, I think one of the things that I really try to put forward in court, when I have defendants come in front of me, is everyone coming in front of me is coming from a different background. And a lot of times those backgrounds are very different from my background. And regardless of what their politics are, both sides, I think it's important to make sure that everybody gets a chance to address the court and have their case considered on an individual basis.
There's a lot of people out there, they immediately want to know if you're Republican or Democrat. And it's a thing because there's people out there, they say, oh, we support Democrats, these Republicans, that we support Democrats. But in these nonpartisan races, you have to look at someone's qualifications and what they're capable of. And if you think that they are going to be fair and balanced, and too often they put way too much focus on that, on that Republican or Democrat thing. And a lot of people don't even know the judges. They don't see you guys. They don't come down to the courts. And I've asked a lot of judges, when you're campaigning, because you're going to gear up here pretty soon, after January especially. But what's a good idea for you to connect to voters and make it easy for people to access you, talk with you, get to know you? I mean, this is one platform that we do where people can, kind of hear what you have to say, but how do you reach out and touch those people?
Well, and I really appreciate you guys bringing me on. I think it's a fantastic way to, to kind of let people know who I am and raise the profile just of municipal court. Because I agree 100%. Just as a prosecutor, I saw many, many times when municipal court was completely unknown to the general public. Even to people within the city of Las Vegas, they didn't realize we had a court system. And so I think that's really the biggest hurdle in making sure that I'm engaging with the electorate, is just letting people know there is a Las Vegas municipal court. Las Vegas has a court system. We handle I believe it's the second highest volume of misdemeanor cases in the entire state. And so it's not only does it exist, it's very busy, and no one knows. And one of the things I think community engagement is the most important. I think setting up events, setting up opportunities for citizens to come in, for people to come hear me speak, hear me talk about about the things that I feel are important from the bench. Again, the Veterans Treatment Court is something that I really feel is valuable. It's really engaging with the population that's in need. Again, the mental health stuff is near and dear to my heart because of the program, and just making sure that the public's aware of we've got other specialty treatment courts in municipal court. For being kind of a small court system, we have 7 judges versus Clark County Justice Court or 8th District. Both have far more than that. We're very forward thinking when it comes to addressing underlying criminality. That being said, I think finding ways to plug into the community, finding events that are already existing from active organizations, and meeting them on their terms, I think is a great way to let people know, look, I don't expect you to come to me and just hear me out. I want to come to you. I want to learn about what you're doing in the community. I want to know what's important to you. I want to know, again, our role is to make sure that justice is served, but people have different expectations of what that means. And so the more I can plug into existing events, existing things that people are doing, the better. And I think that's a better way to engage and to really humanize me as the incumbent.
Yeah. I've said before where, just I'll give it to you in a second, but I've said before where it'd be great if all the judges came down, you guys had a baseball game or something, and, and everyone came to watch, and then you could chat with you or some kind of, you
like
know,
humanization.
yeah, something real.
Yeah.
That it's not this stuffy lunch or a stuffy dinner, or, you know, you're out there with the family and you're having fun. You're at a park or you're having a barbecue, and a lot of you come down, you know, and then people can kind of mingle around and meet you guys, because we get so many calls, and, you know, when it's time to vote, and no one knows, you're just looking at names on a paper.
Right.
But
I think that'd be a fantastic idea. I think it is, you know, by design, the judicial role is supposed to have a gravitas to it. And that's why, you know, we all wear the robes and we sit on the elevated benches, but that can be counterproductive when it comes to people realizing that we are just people and we're making the decisions based on what we feel is the right thing under the law. And I think demystifying a little bit of that, or at least, again, like you said, humanizing the judges, I think that'd be a fantastic idea.
Veterans, you seem to be very involved with the veterans. A lot of time veterans are like oft ignored. I mean, what was it that made you so motivated to help out veterans?
Well, when I took the bench, we have, like I said, each of our courtrooms has a specialty treatment court. And so that was one that our chief judge had been presiding over. And when I moved into Municipal Court 1, the treatment court that was in 1 got reassigned to her. And so the Veterans Treatment Court was actually assigned to me. I didn't get any input in that. But it's, again, I think it's a very important serves a very important purpose. And like I said, it's a very high need within the population that we see. I mean, I get, I don't know, half a dozen veterans, and these are people that will actually acknowledge it. A lot of times our defendants come through and they're ashamed, or they're, concerned about what sort of judgments they'll get. And so they won't let us know. And so we get a high volume of veterans that come through. And I think having that program is huge. And it's something, again, even though I didn't have input in selecting it, I think right now I'm doing everything I can to educate myself and do the best job I can, because I want to serve the participants, because it's a voluntary program. So everybody that's coming into it has, they had an option to either choose jail time or, some other alternative. And they're coming into the program with the anticipation that they're going to receive treatment, that the court is here to help them get better. And so, I mean, I take every day as an obligation to do the right thing and to follow through. But in particular with the Veterans Treatment Court, I think there's a higher obligation. Look, I have to do my best to give our participants the tools, and when they get off track, help them get back on track. So it is one of those things where right now, and especially early on, it was just a lot of self-education and a lot of talking to folks about what was effective.
I'm curious, like from your experiences as being a prosecutor, you have your ears to the ground, so to speak, on what's happening out there. I mean, what are the things that you would recommend that future politicians, legislatures consider about, I guess, the currents you're seeing from your work as a prosecutor and judge?
Well, I think we all know the impact that the homeless-related issues are, the impact that has on the community, quality of life with citizens, businesses, and the human element for those defendants themselves. I think they're making a lot of progress with the facility that's going to go off of Charleston in terms of allocating resources. But I think that's something, any way that, and this is one of the things I learned when I was putting together the PST program, is there are existing resources out there. There are organizations, and there are, good people working out trying to help anyone that wants to help, which that's a whole different issue. But what I saw with that population, with the unaddressed mental health folks, was there wasn't a lot of coordination, and so I was able to reach out to different organizations, different community partners, and piece something together from existing resources. And I think that's something that, as governments and nonprofits and everybody working in that space, I think is important. Just communication, not be too precious with resources, not be too precious with, oh, well, this is my thing and this is how I do it. Realize that there is a common goal here in helping people. And so I think that's one way to try and shore up that issue when it comes to unhoused issues. Yeah.
What is it? What's our homeless population now? In the 30,000 or somewhere there?
I think it's lower than that, but it's still it's increasing, and it's increasing at a pretty substantial rate, I believe, from last year to this year.
Yeah.
And it is the sort of thing that there's kind of like mental health. There's not one solution fits all, because everybody that's in that situation is there for different reasons. But I think, again, the biggest thing, coordination and being open when people are at a point where they're ready to change, to help them out.
Well, I just want to say, Steve and I went down to the Veterans Court, your graduation.
Yes.
What was that, a month ago or so?
Right.
And
And thank you guys for being there. I appreciate it.
I just thought you did a really good job, and I love being at those. And that guy with the animated guy with the
yes, the quilt story.
Oh, he is so funny. Shout out to that guy. I mean, what a good attitude, all of them. And I think it's wonderful. I wanted to talk about the process, the selection process through the city council when you were appointed. And Steve and I had mentioned to the council, because we've been to the Nevada Judicial Selection Commission and their process, and how the public is involved, and we can come down and speak in opposition of or support of whoever those candidates are. So how did you feel going through? Was that your first time going through that process? Have you been to the Nevada Judicial Selection Commission and their process and seen that? How do you think that should be run?
It was
as far as the public.
Sure, yeah, and I understand the frustrations that you and Steve had about this is a sort of thing that, as the general public, we feel like we should have had more information. We should have had more information about who the candidates are and who the applicants rather are, and what that process is. Now, without being on the other side of the city council, I know that there was a lot of work that had to be done in a very short time to put together this process, because there's nothing in the city charter that lays out how someone is supposed to be, how the selection process is supposed to carry forward. I know they consulted with the HR department on best practices, but at the end of the day, they entered into that the vacancy without without a lot of guidance. And I know there was a lot of discussion in City Hall about how to approach it, and a lot of division, I believe. But ultimately, they settled on something that you can actually see in the city council meeting was very much a compromise amongst all the council people in regards to how they were going to approach it. I think setting up a committee to review the applicants was important, to bring in community members. And that was one of the that was part of the process. We, as applicants, completed an interview with the selection committee prior. The use of a weighted scoring system, I think, helped to maintain the integrity of that process, rather than opening it up to some arbitrary last minute choice by a deciding council vote. I think that was I appreciate the efforts they took to make sure that it remains impartial. That being said, for anybody that is unsatisfied with how that was put together, I think when this sort of thing happens again, reaching out to council people saying, "Hey, we didn't have a process. This had to be put together sort of on the fly. Can you bring this forward? Can we establish rules, guidelines? Can we set this up?" And I think that's the time before it happens, rather than waiting until someone else retires. Establishing those guidelines, and then the public would have a chance to weigh in on what is this process going to look like. And
would you want the public to come down? I mean, what if there's people that want to come support you and testify on your behalf, or there's somebody terrible in there and
Sure.
they can, state their opposition. I think that, I mean, you're serving the public, you're serving the taxpayers in Nevada. So it's seems natural that they would be able to participate.
And I think, and again, I can't, having not been in a council seat, I guess I can't speak too much to that. But I would feel like, were I a council person, I would want all the information I could get. The question is, what does that look like? Like, how would that happen? And that's why I think now is the time to establish those rules. When the next time this happens, what is the public engagement going to look like? At what stage is the public going to be involved? Do we disclose the names of the applicants? If we do, how do we do that? What does that look like? And now, before we're under the gun, we meaning the city, now before we're under the gun, we can work through the nuances and hear everyone's position on what they want that to look like, so that when it comes around, there's a smooth process that everyone maybe not has agreed on, but that everyone has compromised and accepted. I think that's the best way to approach it moving forward. And I will say, this was the first time this specific circumstance had come up since 2008. So we hadn't had a vacancy in this manner for a long time. And I think that was, and it just frankly doesn't come up very often. And I think that was a lot of the reason there's not a set process in the city charter to lay out to give council guidance.
Yeah, I think they're working on it.
I am sure after this they are.
Yeah.
I'm curious, how was your career path thus far? I mean, is things going according to plan? Did you see yourself becoming a judge when you first started studying the law?
When I first started studying, I was actually not sure what direction I wanted to go, if I even wanted to be in the criminal world at all. I went to law school in University of South Dakota, and then moved to Las Vegas and was looking for openings, looking for options. And I knew my family, all my parents were involved in one way or another with government service. And so I knew, public service was important to me, and that it was something that had served them all well. My mom was a school teacher for 30 years. My dad was a civil servant for 25, I think. My grandpa worked for the United States Geological Service. Again, just long history of public service. So when I saw the city position was open, I put in for it. And, as a prosecutor, I just really loved the speed of criminal court, and I loved the human aspect of it, being able to work with criminal defense attorneys and negotiating cases and being able to, see things happen, like that. And as a prosecutor, the other thing that was great was, working with victims and getting a chance to help people, to have people come in and say, let's say this is a victim that's caught in a cycle of violence, and we're able to negotiate something that gets them the consequences they want to see happen. And I had that happen many times where victims said, it's just so glad that this person is finally being held accountable. They've gotten away with it over and over and over again. And, that was gratifying to be able to see justice served. And it feels like now, like I said, I wasn't even sure I was going to go into criminal law, and so I didn't necessarily have judicial aspirations. But as a prosecutor, especially in Las Vegas Municipal Court, it feels like a natural evolution to go from dealing with our caseload and our population on a day-to-day basis from one side, now expanding and looking at it from both sides, now expanding and being the person that can bring all those years' experience and bring them to bear in making sure that I serve the role.
Wow. I mean, it takes a very kind of unique character to be able to deal with the criminal aspect, I'm sure, because you're seeing I'm sure you've seen a lot of dark stuff in your career. Sure. That, you have to be pretty even keeled to deal with that sort of thing and not let it affect you.
Absolutely. I mean, you see, and again, as a limited jurisdiction court, we don't see the real scary stuff, but we definitely have people that pose a very high safety risk, and people that have done really awful things. I mean, even in the misdemeanor world, we see some just some really bad allegations that come through. And as a prosecutor, again, your position is to to take the position of the city that we're the party bringing this action because we think something wrong happened. Mm-hmm. And so emotion and getting worked up about it, and getting upset or getting angry or getting frustrated with what happened is a natural result of taking that position. The big thing is to make sure that it doesn't color how you do your job. Yeah. To make sure that you're still putting forth the evidence that you have, to make sure that you're not trying to push a case that you can't prove, or that you're not trying to push a case to get some sort of personal resolution out of. Again, the ultimate goal, just like it is from the bench, the ultimate goal as a prosecutor is to seek justice. Mm-hmm. And so, I guess to kind of get back around to your question, that sort of emotional thing is natural. The big thing is to be able to separate that out from your job duties.
Yeah. And I'm sure sometimes you're dealing with people that have misdemeanors that are going to graduate to felonies. And I'm sure that puts a lot of pressure on you to do what you can to prevent things from getting worse.
100%. And one of the things that I really love about municipal court is we are in a unique position to try to head those things off of the pass, mm-hmm. To put it that way. A lot of times these are folks that haven't, just to put it frankly, haven't ruined their life yet. They haven't ruined someone else's life yet. And if we can, in the court system can catch them before we can figure out how did they get here? What was the thing that caused them to get here? Are they willing to take care of it? Can we make sure that they take care of it so that we don't have more victims in the future, so that we don't have someone spending the rest of their life behind bars? And I think because we are at that point in their, I don't want to call it a career, but their criminal process
timeline.
Yeah, exactly. That we are in a position to really give people the opportunity. Right now, you're in front of me as a judge. We can help you not do this again. Mm-hmm. We can make sure if there are victims that they're made whole and they get justice, and we can make sure that if the person is willing to use the tools that we can give them to them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you want to eventually be a district court judge?
Honestly, I love municipal court for this reason, because I think we are in this position where we can be a little proactive. And certainly there's the district court handles, they handle the more serious cases. They handle the bigger legal issues. But I'm just really happy in municipal court and being able to see on a person by person basis those changes or the opportunity for changes. So at least as of right now, municipal court is where I want to finish my career.
Mm-hmm. I hear that same answer a lot from judges. It must be like a political answer because all they say the same thing. What did you think of SB 432, where that passed? The governor signed it. And you may not be able to weigh in on this, but where they make it a felony if you come out and talk publicly, even if you're a litigant, about your own case, if it's sealed and certain things, and they want to slap you with a felony for speaking out about your case. And a lot of this, we do a lot of family court stuff and litigants and advocating for the litigants. How do you think that that's going to affect people? And did you read about that or have any kind of an opinion?
Well, I think that
there
is only so much. There's only so much I can talk about with under Canon 4 when it comes to impartiality, and I have to say, I love municipal court, and those are issues that are not going to fall under our purview. I think it's going to be just like anything that's criminalized. It's going to come down to an individual case by case basis for anybody that's been arrested for it, that's been charged for it. It's going to come down to the DA's assessment on whether they even file. Ultimately, though, again, it's the sort of thing that is kind of like the legislative thing I was talking about earlier. It's just doesn't fall under my purview. So it's not something that it's not something that I can really weigh in on.
What about the remove or retain bill that they were trying to get on there, where a judge is not, you don't have an opponent, but the public may want to vote to remove them? What do you think of that process and that option for voters? Think that'd be effective?
Well, I think obviously voters speak when they go to the polls. But if there's only one name on the poll, I think that's kind of the idea. Is there a problem, and if there is, how do we address it? And I think ultimately, if there's not a challenger to the incumbent, that's because the members of the public who are eligible, attorneys that want to be a judge, attorneys that feel like this judge needs to be challenged, they've weighed in already, and they haven't filed against that person for a reason. And I feel like, again, the thing to remember, and this kind of goes back to what we were talking about with humanizing judges, is judges are people too. Judges are members of the community. So are judicial candidates. And so I feel like when it comes to whether or not someone draws an opponent, that's the community speaking. The members of the community that are eligible have chosen not to run. And I think that speaks to whether or not there's a community voice towards removing that person.
Interesting. I did not know was it SB 432 passed? Amazing.
It
Crazy.
passed unanimously in both houses, and then the governor signed it.
Wow.
Shame on you, Governor Lombardo.
Yeah. Gross violation of the First Amendment. I mean, that's the sort of thing that's really scary, But thank you for all the amazing work you're doing, though. We appreciate. I mean, we appreciate even temperamented judges. And I'm sure you see a lot of things in municipal court that is definitely testing to the emotions and stuff.
It's absolutely. Again, the sort of scenario I talked about as a prosecutor, where we have the victim that comes in and says he's getting away with it all this time. Now being on the other side, on the bench, it is testing to see someone that has those multiple cases, though, and making sure that we're maintaining public safety by addressing that victim and making sure they get justice too. I mean, that's really ultimately they're the ones that were injured as a result, and we want to make sure they get heard too. And so it is testing to keep those same emotions that as a prosecutor you might naturally have, to keep those separate and remain impartial. But at the end of the day, I mean, that's the job. The job is to, when we're up there, to represent the city, represent the state, and the system itself. And I think that's kind of my guiding light when it comes to how do I proceed, how do I address those type of things. I will say, when it comes to the Veterans Treatment Courts, just if I can throw this out there, we've been around, I believe, since 2012 in Las Vegas Municipal Court. And we've had a lot of successes. We've got a fairly large participant base. But one of the things that we're looking at expanding into is finding some veteran mentors to assist with the program. So if any of the viewers are interested in mentorship, we're in the process of putting together that mentorship program now. And I'm talking to different veterans organizations and kind of trying to find folks that would be interested. If you have anyone that's viewing or watching that is that would be interested, if you can make sure and pass them on, I'd love to talk to them and kind of see if they'd be, if that's something that they want to do to help us. Again, it's an efficacy thing. A lot of times our participants come in, again, like I talked about before, with these folks that we see in, and they're just ashamed to even mention their service history because they don't want to be, perceived as failing in some way. Even once they are participants with our court, there is still a reluctance to be completely open with me as the judge. Again, they, sitting up on that bench, or even with the court staff, with the program staff, and having a mentor, having somebody that is a peer, that has been there, somebody that is that may have already taken, had these sort of issues, these addiction issues, these mental health issues, and tackled them. Somebody they can be fully candid with I mean, even under the best practices of specialty treatment courts, is very important. So I just wanted to throw that out there because we do have an audience and we are looking for folks.
Yeah.
And at the end, we're going to give you the opportunity to say what you want and also give a point of contact.
Okay. Great.
So you can tell people how to get in touch with you. You've been at Muni Court probably long enough. You see the process and have learned a lot. If there's one thing that you could change about Muni Court, admin, the city, I mean, anything down there, what would you change to make it better, make it run smoother?
So I'm gonna throw out just a blue sky. I don't think from a practical standpoint that we're anywhere near getting this, but something as a prosecutor, I always wanted also. I really feel like it would be a service to the community if we had a night court session. Our sessions, and I mean all the courts in the valley run day sessions. That's just how it works. But you got to think we're a city, we're a 24-hour city, and just speaking as a prosecutor, it's difficult getting witnesses to show up because they have to take off work. They have to, they're reluctant because there are things that they have going on, and for participants, if you got to come down and take care of a traffic ticket, people get frustrated all the time that they have to come down between business hours, let alone anyone with a criminal case. I think it would be a huge benefit if we were able to have night sessions. I know it's not.
Maybe
it's
people
not
wouldn't miss their court dates if they had a night, and they could do it by Zoom.
I feel like that's the sort of thing. If we had that as an option, I think that would be a way to really increase court engagement. So that's always been on my wish list. I don't think from a practical standpoint, a resource standpoint, it's something that's happening anytime soon.
Yeah,
but
it's a good idea.
That's my magic wand.
I mean, when you said night court, I started thinking about that 80s TV show from like New York Night Court. And I started thinking when you started saying we're a 24/7 town, I'm like, oh, New York's a 24/7 town. So that's probably why they have night court. They have night court in New York. But Las Vegas, is that why it is? Or that's probably...
I don't know. I mean, that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
And I'm sure with the with the population in New York, their caseload volume, they have to have additional sessions to handle everything that's coming through their court.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it would. Again, just knowing the population in the valley, I think it would be well received from a public standpoint.
Oh, for sure. And maybe it could be on a volunteer basis with judges, or you guys rotate. Each week, have it one night a week, or I don't know how often it would need to be, but maybe you guys take turns, or you volunteer, whoever wants to do that shit. Yeah. I like it.
Yeah.
I like
Again,
it, man.
I'm just throwing it out there. It's a wish list item. So
I've not heard anybody talk about that before or mention that, so that's good.
Yeah.
Do you have any other questions?
Actually, one other question. When you're talking about when treatment for veterans, what kind of treatment do they seek? Is it traditional methods like rehabilitation, pharmaceuticals, that sort of thing, or?
So when we get somebody, when we get a referral to the program, our court coordinator, our social worker coordinator, she does an assessment based on evidence-based testing to evaluate what the needs are. Based on her assessment, then she puts together a treatment plan and connects the participants with the right providers. So all the things you mentioned, it may be one-on-one therapy. It may be community-based support groups like AA, NA, Smart Recovery, things like that. It may be group therapy, regular group therapy, in concert with a medication regimen if appropriate. We've got a big variety of participants, people with, like I've mentioned quite a few times now, but people with different substance issues, different addiction issues,
PTSD.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, if we have somebody that comes through that has a gambling addiction, which in Nevada, I mean, and we'll refer them to counseling, to treatment specifically for that addiction. And so, like so much that comes through, it's a case by case. But the process is we put together an individualized treatment plan that's going to address what those needs are.
Interesting. I mean, just comment on that. Just working with a lot of veterans, that have been PTSD, substance issues, doing a lot of interviews with individuals like that. What I'm learning is that there's some of these, I guess, natural methods of dealing with addiction and PTSD are proven to be pretty successful, and very alternative stuff that they don't talk about in the mainstream necessarily, but things like psilocybin being one of them. I've talked to quite a number of veterans that had drug addiction issues, and then through that sort of therapy mixed with counseling, they were able to just overnight change their lives. So something that I don't think we talk about often, but worth having in the back of our heads, because it seems to be helping a lot of people.
Yeah. Oh, I think looking at anything that's going to be effective, and anything that's legal, but anything that's going to be effective, I think is definitely worth considering. One of the more interesting things to me that I learned about when I started, this education process is they have a device that they use at the VA for non-pharmaceutical treatment for anxiety and PTSD related trauma. And it's what it is it's kind of that old electric shock sort of concept. It's a handheld device. It connects at the ears, and it has to do with realigning the alpha waves. And I know they've had a lot of success. We've got participants that are reluctant to get on a medication regimen for one reason or another. It's triggering of their addiction, or they don't like having to introduce substances into their body, or whatever the issue is. We can look at this alpha stim as a way to, as a non-medication based way to kind of address some of those symptoms. Yeah. So I agree. I think, we need, as a court, especially as a treatment court, we need to be open-minded to, any sort of, any sort of data-backed treatment alternatives, because again, it's not one size fits all.
Yeah, totally, yeah.
Is there anything that we haven't asked or covered that you would like to talk about?
No, I think, I don't know. You guys have let me do all the talking. I feel like I hopefully haven't bored everybody too badly out there.
No, that's the point. We want you to talk so people can get to know you. But thanks for coming on, Vem, and
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. In fact, wonderful learning about you. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you, Judge Walker. And I would like for Mark is going to zoom in on you.
Okay.
And you can tell people anything about your campaign, how to get in touch with you, point of contact, website, email, phone number, whatever you'd like.
All right. You all know by now, my name's Matt Walker. I'm the current judge in Las Vegas Municipal Court Department 1. I'll be running for re-election in 2026. I currently have a Facebook page to follow. It's Judge Matt Walker, all one word. So look me up there. You'll see events that I'm attending, things that have come up. You can also instant message me there. My email is mwalker@lasvegasnevada.gov. That's if you want to reach out to me there regarding campaign questions. And anyone that's interested in our mentorship program, please reach out and we'll connect you with our team and let you know a little bit more. Again, when it comes to the campaign, anyone that feels like you want to support, please follow that Facebook page. That's the best way to make sure that everybody that might be interested in supporting me gets a chance to see me.
Thank you, Judge Walker.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. And thanks everybody for joining us. Thank you, Vem. We will see you next week for another episode of the Veterans in Politics Talk Show. Until next week.